It's 7 o'clock. Calling the meeting to order. We have a quorum with Matt Prickard, Don Sharp, and Mike Houston and myself. Mike is designated as a voting member. And consideration of the minutes of the previous meeting, which Don just handed out. Thank you, Don. You were here, so Mike.
Just the three of us.
Yeah.
Do you make the motion that we accept the minutes?
Yes, I will make the motion to accept Don's minutes. Yes.
And it's seconded, and all those in favor? All right. Done. Updated the status of the Sand Pond Road conditional use permit. It was realized by the selectmen that we have a mess. And probably, well, they are going to meet once more with Jermaine and Elizabeth and figure out how to make things cleaner and possible. As things stand right now, if we went forward with their conditional use permit application and we granted it, they would then be in violation of that permit the next day. Immediately. And so that's no way to run a meeting. Just, you can't do that. So the selectmen have taken it upon themselves to figure out how to come to some sort of administrative agreement that will allow us to consider the conditional use permit, and they're going to figure this out for us. I'm very grateful, Bob, that you're the ones who are doing this, and we don't have to figure this out ourselves.
It's a very familiar feeling.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's where that stands. I mean, I really don't have anything more to report, but we all ought to be up to speed on that.
They've been notified of what we had said last meeting.
So the selectmen have already met with Jermaine and Elizabeth once on Tuesday afternoon, and it was a subject of a lot of discussion at the selectmen's meeting that night. And this is the outcome of that discussion, was the selectmen will have another meeting with Jermaine and Elizabeth because we couldn't move forward.
You know, what exactly are the violations that exist?
The violations that exist are that if you have more than 5 dogs, you need a kennel permit in the town of Baldwin.
And they haven't gotten a permit yet?
And they have to get a conditional use permit in order to get a kennel permit. And so that's one violation. And then the next violation is barking dogs.
So they're in violation of the barking dog ordinance.
And they're in violation of the barking dog ordinance. And if they had a permit, they would be, from us, a kennel permit from us, they would be out of compliance with it the next day because of the barking dog ordinance. This seems to be need for conversation so that everybody can understand each other. There's a lot of counseling that they should get to know their neighbors and be nice to their neighbors and try to work things out with their neighbors. That would help all of us a great deal.
I don't know if they remember it, but I explained to Jermaine and Elizabeth the first time they were here, and I read to them from the land use ordinance that if consider a conditional use permit, and there is an existing violation, that we have to reject the conditional use permit, and if it is rejected because of an existing violation, they may not be allowed to resubmit the CUP for 2 years.
So, we've talked about this also, and
Yeah.
I think they have understood that. The thing is that there's a difference between a violation in fact
Yeah,
and a violation in law.
right,
In other words, if they are given a notice of violation,
right,
then they're in violation and those rules apply that you just talked about.
right.
If they are in violation in fact, but not in law,
But they haven't been notified of the violation.
then that circumstance doesn't apply.
Right, okay, so they haven't been notified of any violation.
They've had a verbal notification from the,
Right.
animal control officer.
Right, okay.
And the next step is a written one, and that's the one that we would have to pay attention to.
How have they been doing in terms of their efforts to mitigate the dogs barking with any of the, collars or fences or anything like that? Has it gotten better?
I think we shouldn't get into talking about that without them being present. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'd asked David to give a workshop on the open meetings law. I think that, to be fair to Jermaine and Elizabeth, we shouldn't get too far down the road of what they're doing.
Yep.
If you don't mind,
I got it. Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's cool.
Okay.
Could I just add to that, it's clear to me, that sort of in between all of this, they had a very wrong impression of what these folks think. And I think if these folks and those folks got together, they might help a little bit with some of it. They might not fix everything, but they might help a little bit.
It usually does,
That's been my experience so far.
yeah.
So if you don't want to discuss it without Jermaine and Elizabeth here, maybe the rest of the folks here should be included in our meeting or something.
Absolutely, absolutely, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't see a witch hunt on that side either, and
Right.
I don't think they're out there looking to lynch somebody. And they were feeling very threatened by the neighbors, and I don't get that sense. And maybe if they got to talking together, they might not feel that way. That's what I would hope.
I've been on that side of this same table a couple of times, and it is an intimidating thing. I have my property, I can do what I want with it, is a very strong feeling. And then to be told, your neighbors might have a say in it.
Well,
It's kind of,
the other thing is where they had the previous kennel before they moved here also in Maine, and we maybe want to look into that and what happened there.
that's Scarborough, yeah.
In Scarborough, and why did they give that up and move here? Knowing in Scarborough, I'm sure they ran into issues with kennel permits and things, so they should have known something before they moved here, I would think.
While we were sitting in the selectmen's meeting on Tuesday night, I looked up Scarborough's dog ordinances, and Baldwin's are much stronger.
So they are, okay, so in that case.
Unless I didn't find something, 10 pages later or 10 pages ahead.
So, did they know that the kennel CUP was going to be on the agenda tonight, and they decided not to come, or did they not get invited, or I'm just wondering why they're not here?
The selectmen agreed that we should put them on the agenda maybe next time or the time after. Give the selectmen enough time to work with them to figure things out.
They're not on the agenda tonight.
They are not on the agenda tonight.
Well, what's the Sand Pond Road CUP? Is that a different?
That is what we're talking about. I was just updating. I wasn't, on the agenda, I said that we wouldn't consider the CUP.
I see.
I just,
Okay. You know, it's hard for me to pick up these nuances, Joe. I need you to explain them to me.
I realize as a
Appreciate
marketing
that,
guy,
yeah.
you wouldn't understand
It's
nuances,
just,
so
you know.
I get that. Okay, update on the status of planning board members. So, our regular members are Joe Pierce, David Strock, Don Sharp, Matt Fricker, and Tracy Grisay. There were 3 alternates appointed. Mike Houston is one of them. Mike Houston took his oath of office and swore to uphold the Constitution.
That's right.
And Dale Minor has decided not to take up the position. So he was appointed but decided not to take it up. And Victoria, maybe you know her last name? No? Okay. I saw it, but I've forgotten it. And Robin's been trying to get a hold of Victoria. She lives in center downtown West Baldwin. And Robin's been unsuccessful getting a hold of her. Maybe she's traveling. So we may or may not have a second alternate. But we have Mike, which is great. And just if we're naming people around here, we should mention Don Kent, Code Enforcement Officer, important guy to the whole workings of everything. We can say all we want to and give permits, but if Don shrugs his shoulders, it doesn't matter. Don does a great shrugging of the shoulders. So, we were going to have a workshop on Maine's open meetings law, and David will do it at some other time, I guess. I see there's been action on the Starbucks labor front, and that could be why he's not here. He represents Starbucks.
There you go.
So, but the open meetings law is something we should pay attention to. It's about notification of meetings, it's why we post the agenda ahead of time, it's why we don't email and telephone back and forth all week ahead of the meeting to settle how we're gonna vote. We should not do that. We shouldn't talk to each other about planning board business outside of the meeting. We can have a beer together, or have a hot dog barbecue, or whatever, but no discussion of planning board business. And I really appreciate the open meetings aspect of it. I appreciate these people coming and participating. This is, I mean, just, if you say nothing, it's still, you're here, you care, you listen to us, we're on our best behavior. And, you know, and you check up that we aren't whispering to each other and doing things we shouldn't be doing, or, you know, you get a chance to say, hey, what's going on? And I really like that. That makes it, I participated in government before. I remember 25 years ago going to a selectmen's meeting, and I walked in the door and I was asked in a very peremptory tone of voice, what are you doing here?
Ooh, what?
You know, and that, you can't do that anymore. That's great. It's good for the town. I find it's actually, it's more fun for me sitting here with an open meeting than it is with the old closed meetings. You have to be honest, and that's nice. I like that. Does anybody have anything they would like to say for the good of the board? No?
Nope.
Great. I'll get home fairly early. So, thank you all for coming. This is great. I'm glad we had a meeting. We have to have meetings even when we really have very little on the agenda. It's important, even if we do have an agenda, that we sit here. We have had people come to the door to try to figure out how to deal with the planning board, and that's one of the reasons I come every second and fourth Thursday, in case there's somebody who needs help. We're here to serve the town, not ourselves. So meeting to adjourn, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn, Dave? Second?
Seconded, all those in favor of adjourning?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you all very much.